समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है, अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है, अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
आप समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Tensions between India and Bangladesh are spiraling over the targeted violence against the Hindu community in Bangladesh. This even as Khalida Zia's son returns to Bangladesh and is received in a rousing welcome by more than 1 million people. The Ministry of External Affairs, our government, has responded today saying that what is happening with religious minorities, in particular the Hindu community in Bangladesh, can no longer be brushed aside and explained either as media exaggeration or political violence. A second Hindu man has been lynched, this after the lynching of Dipu Chandra that basically led to a situation of extreme friction between Dhaka and Delhi. The foreign ministry is now asking for the Yunus regime to take concrete measures. And even as this happens, celebrities, high-profile actors have begun speaking out as well. Prominent among them, actor Janhvi Kapoor, who said what's happening in Bangladesh needs to be called out and India needs to be more focused on its neighborhood than on events that are taking place half a world away. What next for India, Bangladesh? And what about the role of Pakistan and China in this minefield of a situation? I'm Barkha, you're with the Mojo story. On the program today, we look at the aftermath and the consequences of a second lynching that has taken place of a Hindu man in Bangladesh. This is the second such case that has followed the initial killing of Dipu Chandra. We have seen cultural institutions as well come under attack. In Bangladesh, we have even seen tablas and harmoniums being carried away as anti-India mobs and anti-Hindu mobs in some cases specifically go on the rampage. The question is also being asked about who is in control of the street in Bangladesh. Has the Yunus regime lost control, or does it choose to not exercise control? The MEA has spoken today. We'll be playing out India's reaction in just a moment. Let me introduce our guests on the program today, if we can bring them up now. Joining me for the Bangladeshi perspective is Shafkat Rabi. He's a political analyst and he's the founder of Centrist Nation. Is centrism possible in a deeply divided Bangladesh? We'll find out in a moment from now. Also joining me is veteran senior diplomat, Ambassador Dr. Mohan Kumar. Always a pleasure, sir. And also joining me is a military veteran, General Rakesh Sharma. It is always a pleasure to have you with us. Also a distinguished fellow at the Vivekanand Foundation. Before we get started, let me play out Randhir Jaiswal, the spokesperson of the Foreign Ministry, in these comments slamming Bangladesh as a second Hindu man is killed in a lynching. Take a look.
We are all aware of the recent developments in Bangladesh. We have been closely following them. And as far as law and order situation is concerned, I have been apprising you from time to time as to what our position has been or should be and is today. The unremitting hostility against minorities in Bangladesh, including Hindus, Christians, and Buddhists, at the hands of extremists, is a matter of grave concern. We condemn the recent gruesome killing of a Hindu youth in Mymensingh and expect that the perpetrators of the crime would be brought to justice. Over 2,900 incidents of violence against minorities, including cases of killings, arsons, land grab, have been documented by independent sources during the tenure of the interim government. These incidents cannot be brushed aside as mere media exaggerations or dismissed as political violence.
What next for India and Bangladesh? Is this a containable situation, or is this now beyond repair, at least in the present circumstances? This, even as I mentioned, Khalid Zia's son, Tarique Rahman, returned to a rousing reception. More than 1 million people gathered to hear him speak. And what is significant is that in his address, he specifically did speak about Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, religious amity. Before we get first comments from all of you, let me play out Mr. Rahman's statement as well, because I think it's significant that a Bangladeshi politician is sort of making this comment at a time when anti-India mobs are on the rampage in Dhaka and elsewhere.
আজ আমাদের সময় এসেছে সকলে মিলে দেশ গড়ার। এই দেশে যেমন পাহাড়ের মানুষ আছে, এই দেশে একইভাবে সমতলের মানুষ আছে। এই দেশে মুসলমান, বৌদ্ধ, খ্রিস্টান, হিন্দু সহ বিভিন্ন ধর্মের মানুষ বসবাস করে। আমরা চাই সকলে মিলে এমন একটি বাংলাদেশ গড়ে তুলব আমরা, যেই বাংলাদেশের স্বপ্ন একজন মা দেখেন, অর্থাৎ একটি নিরাপদ বাংলাদেশ আমরা গড়ে তুলতে চাই, যে বাংলাদেশে একজন নারী, একজন পুরুষ, একজন শিশু যেই হোক না কেন নিরাপদে ঘর থেকে বের হলে নিরাপদে ইনশাআল্লাহ ঘরে আবার ফিরে আসতে পারে।
Let's open this up. I'll start with you, Ambassador Dr. Mohan Kumar. This has reached a very dangerous point. And in fact, the parliamentary panel led by Dr. Tharoor has flagged the emerging situation in Bangladesh as India's biggest challenge since 1971. And ironically, that report was written well before this round of targeted killings of 2 lynchings now. And the street aflame after Usman Hadi, an anti-India student protester or student leader, was killed. I want your perspective. Is the Yunus regime unable to act, or is it unwilling to act? And if so, what are options from New Delhi that should already be examined or explored?
Thank you very much, Barkha, for having me on your show. I think it's a bit of both. There may be instances where the Yunus government is helpless, and in other cases, it may well be that they are turning a blind eye. It's hard to say sitting in the comfort of your Delhi home. But what I do want to emphasize is that this is, to my mind, a transient phenomenon we are seeing in Bangladesh, a temporary phenomenon where it is an interim government, and we don't expect this government to last forever. So I would say that the immediate challenge for India is to take these incidents seriously, yes, condemn them, yes, but don't allow them to hijack the relationship, manage the relationship, and make sure you don't take your eye off the ball. And the central objective has to be a free and fair and inclusive election. And that is going to be a tough challenge under the best of circumstances in Bangladesh. I've dealt with Bangladesh as Joint Secretary Bangladesh, and the last time I remember this was exactly the case when Begum Zia, I think, handed over to an interim government. We called it at the time, somebody from World Bank, Ijaz Ahmed, came and took over. So this is not the first time, but I just wanted to make this fundamental point that we have to manage the situation now and then keep our eye on the ball. The central objective is a free, fair election. If you allow me, I will just mention the 2 or 3 core objectives and then give a chance for others to react. Our core objective, to my understanding, is to make sure that Bangladesh does not fall prey to Islamic radicalism and intolerance. Okay, so that is a very, very fundamental objective for India. The second objective is that we do want Bangladesh to be prosperous, because prosperity in Bangladesh is the only solution for stability and to handle our immigration issues from there. Last but not least, and that we can do only with an elected government, is to make sure Bangladesh does not allow its soil for use against the sovereignty and territorial integrity of India. That can only be done when India talks to the elected government in Bangladesh. And in that context, I find it nevertheless interesting that our NSA has already met with the Bangladesh NSA. I think that's an excellent initiative. Even if this is an interim government, our NSA has established contact with the NSA there, and they have talked about strengthening the Colombo Security Conclave. So the challenge, Barkha, is to see this period through without much damage to the bilateral relationship.
So I have no disagreement with that, Ambassador Kumar, as an aspiration, as an objective. But what I want to ask General Sharma is it possible, or is Bangladesh already in the throes of a change that is taking deeper roots than India would be comfortable with? And let me explain. We've been talking to a series of Bangladeshi guests over the last few days, and we'll hear from our colleague today as well. They all have very different perspectives. I have heard far-right voices on this program. I have heard centrist voices like we'll hear today. But some have begun to erase 1971. I've had a gentleman actually sit here on the program and say, we could have done this without the Indian Army. We are in the month where we have just commemorated Vijay Diwas, the 1971 war that birthed Bangladesh, and this erasure is also linked to the way Mujibur Rahman, the founding father of Bangladesh, is being targeted. So the two things are interconnected. Third, we've had Bangladeshi friends. We've had the editor of the Daily Star, Mehfooz Anam, who was a critic of Sheikh Hasina, say that his country is entering an era of murder. This is a critic of Sheikh Hasina. So while Ambassador Kumar defines very noble and smart goals for India, is it still possible? Could you unmute? Yeah, now I can hear you, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So thank you for inviting me, Barkha. I tend to go with Ambassador Mohan Kumar on this one. The fact is that there are fine voices that have come out. See, last few months have not been very good for Bangladesh. There have been huge amount of riots. We have followed them through. There have been 2 lynchings of Hindus, but there are 1.3 million Hindus in Bangladesh. There are substantial numbers that they exist still. So, why we should not be raising the bar too high, because there are larger number of people settled there. But I see very good voices coming out of Mr. Tarique Rahman's arrival here. He says equidistance from Delhi and equidistance from Pindi. It was very strong statement that he came out with. He also named the Hindus, the Buddhists, and the Christians, saying all of them are all Bangladeshis. See, if we do not support him at this juncture and strengthen his hands, there is a dire situation there. He is the only hope that is there for that country, a country with which we have very deep relations. He's also made a statement about 1971. While people say that 1971 is no more an important issue among the youth, but the fact is, he said, and his reference to 1971 was a ticking off against Jamaat. So Jamaat had supported Pakistan at that time. So his statement, which he came on the day he landed up there, he said that it is because of the people who supported Pakistanis during Jamaat time. So he carries the issues with us. So I think at this juncture, his statements, and he also gave a BBC interview some months ago. Very nice interview. He referred to even SARC for that matter. Because SARC was his for President Zia's times. So if you add up all that, I think there is a need for support to Bangladesh. He has made an agenda. He has made a large, elaborate agenda.
Can I ask you something, though, before I go to our Bangladeshi colleague? You spoke very importantly about Tarique Rahman talking about equidistance between from Pindi, which is Rawalpindi, and Delhi, in other words, India and Pakistan. But please do remember that all of this is happening at a time when there has been a rapprochement process between Pakistan and Bangladesh. Their militaries have engaged. We have seen their top leadership engaged. And there are unverified reports that Pakistan and Bangladesh are thinking of a Saudi-style cooperation pact. There is talk, at least Sheikh Hasina's son said to me, that groups like the Jaish, terror groups like the Jaish and Lashkar are now able to operate from Bangladesh. I'm sure Mr. Rabi has a different perspective. I'm just quoting what Sheikh Hasina's son said. So just your quick perspective on that, General Sharma.
So first, I make a remark regarding Jamaat. No, Jamaat won elections in two of the universities. So when they did a poll in the country, of course BNP takes a tour, is advantaged, but Jamaat is also done all right at these elections and in the support he gets. So at this time, if we raise the rhetoric, it's to the advantage of Jamaat and then to the disadvantage of BNP. Then second point is that Pakistanis have been looking. See, Pakistan was never dead in Bangladesh. Even after 1947, in 1971, there was semblance of Pakistan having lived on in some thought process, maybe in form of Jamaat and in any other forms of radicalization. So had not moved away. So the fact is that on the course of last one year, they have taken tremendous advantage of all this. I amazed at the statement given by Shahbaz Sharif that if there is a war between Bangladesh and India, who's talking war? He makes a statement that he will join up arms with Bangladesh. It's a very faltu kind of a statement made by Shahbaz Sharif. So I'll say that their relation, it is obvious that there was a void created, a vacuum existing in Bangladesh, which Pakistanis took advantage of. Now, having taken advantage of, how long can they pursue the issue? We have to see how things progress. Pakistan themselves do not have a standing of any kind of in this.
So let's bring in Shafqat Rabi, who's been waiting patiently to speak. Mr. Rabi, a couple of questions for you. The election, a poll conducted by one of Bangladesh's main media groups among the houses that was torched and burnt, by the way, by mobs, showed that 69% of Bangladeshi people disagreed with the exclusion of the Awami League in the upcoming elections, which, however they may, whether they would have voted for them or not voted for them, I'm not getting into that, but they felt that they should be allowed to participate. Right now, the Awami League is being kept out of the election. That's point one. Point two, how do you see it as somebody who is avowedly centrist? What is the middle path that you see emerge out of this minefield that your country finds itself in, sir?
Okay, so thanks for bringing me here. As a practical person, I do not, from the beginning, like right after Hasina's departure from Bangladesh, within like 7 days, I did podcasts where people asked me the same question: should Awami League be banned? My answer is always no, in the sense that Awami League still has about 25%, maybe 20% former or current supporters in the country. And in a country of 180 million people, that's a lot of people. And these are not insects that you just spray and kill. There is no solution for political party to be eliminated just like that. However, the contention here is that Awami League, right before its fleeing from Bangladesh, took part in some crazy activities which you can watch all night on YouTube and Facebook, like the killings and the arbitrary rampages that their people did on the young people. So there is this demand from the youth that Awami League has to face some sort of consequence for that 1,400 some people who died according to UN, and innumerous number of people lost their eyesight because of the rubber bullets and all that. And these people are actually in the hospital. You can send your journalist and verify what I'm saying. So there needs to be some sort of justice before the whole political process normalizes around Awami League. So that is the one contention that any practical person would struggle to just say, okay, let's not even have any punishment, let's just get them back. So that's one aspect which still has some sympathy. So that makes us not become so bold in our assertion that just bring Awami League back. So there needs to be some sort of process for justice. The other thing is apology. If you follow the narrative that is being perpetuated by Awami League over the last 15-16 months, there is almost no words of apology. It's just denial. Like even the most pictorial death that you have, like one gentleman who died with his two wide arms and he was shot. Even like Awami League people are saying he was drugged and he was like doing. It's just crazy, the denial that you have. So that's where the youth, and I keep bringing up the word youth here is because from a practical person, again, the country has 66% people who are below the age of 35. It's a very young population. So 66% people below the age of 35. Awami League was here for 17 years or 16 years. So these guys actually never saw anything else but Awami League. And the end of Awami League was pretty brutal for these young people. So that's where the crux of the matter is. This youthful population who ended up becoming the main adversary of the regime, who ended up overthrowing the regime, now occupies a huge space in the political narrative in Bangladesh, and they want some sort of justice. So without that, I think
but isn't that, but if I may ask you, what I'm hearing you say is that you do not agree with, you do not think a political party can be killed just like that. So the Awami League cannot be erased, but Hasina's party has to face justice.
Yes. And some semblance of apology to the people has to be extended by the Hasina clan. This continued denial and bringing, like, there's a gentleman who used to be a lieutenant general. I'm sure Mr. General has access to information. India is an advanced country with satellites and everything. Bangladesh doesn't have all these military type of worries that you may have about some other parts of the world, like maybe Afghanistan or Pakistan. It's a pretty small country, flat land, very little space to hide. Bangladesh doesn't really have that type of
but Mr. Rabi, before I take this back to our ambassador in general, I do want to ask you, this idea of bringing Hasina and the Awami League to justice. I know Sheikh Hasina is in India, and I have some questions about that to my colleagues from my country. But my question to you is, all these months, I know that policemen, even members of the army, they have been brought to trial. It is not as if people have not been imprisoned. It is not as if people are not being tried. All of that is happening. I don't think India is interfering with that process. So how does that explain the lynching of Hindus? How does that explain that Usman Hadi and others are today talking about a so-called Greater Bangladesh, and including in that maps that show the Northeast is part of Bangladesh? You see, all of this, if I may say so, seems to be an echo of what Pakistan's ISI talks about when it says that the next threat to India will come from the East. So, that is the reason for the deep skepticism in India. So just a very brief response, and then I'll get both Ambassador and General to come in.
I do not recall Hadi ever talking about Greater Bengal or Greater India, either of those terms.
Great Bangladesh. Great Bangladesh.
Great Bangladesh.
At least that's what he reported. The maps that he was showing per media reports, the maps that he was showing represented this, and we have seen even Yunus, Dr. Yunus, talk irresponsibly about the Northeast. We have seen it almost seems a little bit like a variation of Pakistan's language on the Northeast of India.
Some of these conversation around Greater Bangladesh, Greater India, Akhand Bharat, all these things are hyperbole. As responsible analysts, we should not take these things seriously. I have seen a lot of YouTube videos where someone from your country chopping off the northern neck of Bangladesh, the southern in Chattogram, and showing how the map changes. Internet has become a little bit of crazy in terms of this kind of narrative. So we need to always focus on whether any responsible person is talking like that. So I accept the point that you made about Yunus. I'm not here to defend him. But no responsible major political party, let that be Jamaat Islami, let that be BNP, Awami League, nobody has any of these ambitions of like territorial expansion, and it's not even practical. So, and it's not practical for even India.
Fair enough. But if I'm not wrong, and I can be corrected, in fact, I've asked my producers to pull out the headline. I remember specifically Dr. Yunus making a rather provocative comment when it came to the Northeast of India, and I've asked somebody to oops, where did my guest go? I've asked somebody to pull that out and check it. Can I please bring back my guest? Okay, I don't actually know what's going on here. I can see them at the back end. Dr. Ambassador Kumar, if you can hear me, are you able to hear me? Let me actually just bring you in. Go ahead, sir. Ambassador Kumar, I want you to, go ahead. If you want to respond to what you've heard Mr. Rabi say.
I have to say that I find myself largely in agreement with Mr. Rabi, frankly. Except for one thing, perhaps, and that is that it seems unfair to treat the whole party for what are interpreted as alleged, misdemeanors and crimes by a coterie of leaders. Even assuming Sheikh Hasina and her colleagues are responsible, the only area where I disagree with my Bangladeshi friend is that I think a way has to be found to include the Awami League even
Sorry,
in
if I
this
may,
election.
if I may, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to make sure that I was
Please.
correct. This is a headline. Muhammad Yunus sparks anti-India row, gifts a map showing Northeast India in Greater Bangladesh to Pakistani General. Mr. Rabi, I usually do trust my research. I'm usually pretty well researched, but I wanted to show it to you so that I could. And Dr. Yunus is not an irrelevant voice in Bangladesh. For
This one I have to respond.
Very quickly, because the master was speaking and I interrupted him.
Please, allow me just 1 minute.
All right.
This one, okay. So Yunus has interfered into this conversation twice. Once in China, where he talked about Bangladesh is the gateway for Northeast because of the ocean, Bay of Bengal. So that's probably not a geopolitically very savvy statement. India has other access to the southern ocean and the southern water. So that's that. This one in particular is actually not his fault, because this one is a drawing by a kid who drew Bangladesh's map bloated. The press secretary
the kid can be forgiven, but the interim leader of Bangladesh cannot be forgiven for this.
No, I know, but if you actually see the picture, it's actually not Greater Bharat or Greater Bengal. It is just Bangladesh, but the map was drawn poorly.
Mr. Rabi, I will just say to you, as I said, the child, you can say the child didn't know better, the child was careless. But I think when relations are so fraught between two countries and you're meeting Pakistan, which is the arch adversary of that country, you are expected as a leader of a nation to be more careful or to be conscious that that gesture will be read in to a certain way. But okay, let's move ahead. Sorry, Master Kumar, I didn't want to interrupt you, but since I had this piece of information,
just in response to this and the other point I was making. One, I think relations between India and Yunus have not been the best. It's an open secret, and I think he has had it in it for India. I don't know quite the background as to why this happened, whether he wanted to meet the PM and the PM was not able to give him time, or maybe we genuinely think that there is a section of opinion, Barkha, that feels actually that constitutionally it's illegal, Yunus and his interim government, and you must have heard about it as well. So I would put it down to this relationship, which has not been the best. But going back to the point I made, I think I agree with my Bangladeshi colleague in as much as we should not allow fringe elements to kind of hijack the relationship. My biggest concern right now is if my core objective is that I want to wish that Bangladesh does not fall prey to Islamic radicalism and fundamentalism, if you remove Awami League from the equation, there is a poll which says that BNP is 33% and Jamaat is 29%. There's a difference of just 4 points in a poll that has been published just 2-3 days ago. That worries the hell out of me, because this is not going to be representative. Because my understanding of Bangladesh is that no matter which way you look at it, Islamic fundamentalists are not a majority in Bangladesh. But they could be a majority if you axe 33% of the population or the votes straight away, which is what you are doing by actually axing Awami League from the equation. So that is my central concern, Barkha. Now, I'm anticipating your question, so if I can beg you for 2 more minutes as to how we can deal with this. I think Sergio Gore's conversation with Yunus is important. And I think India has to start coordinating its position with the US, Europe, and others when it comes to elections in Bangladesh. We should not be seen as interfering in the
So what happens to Sheikh Hasina? If I may ask you, Sheikh Hasina continues to be in India. I think it's quite clear that in the present circumstances, there's no question of India sending her back because there's a belief that she will be killed. And again, India is reminding Bangladesh that the Bangladeshi military actually facilitated her crossover into India at that time. It was meant to be at that time a temporary measure. She was believed to be en route to other countries. Whether she feels safer here or whether those countries would not have her, we do not know. There has been one suggestion that while Hasina is in India, she should not be making political speeches. The government clarified to the parliamentary panel that the government is in no way involved in facilitating her political activities. But she is continuing to operate as a leader in exile. How should we handle this? Because many Bangladeshis have questions about this, that India has chosen a side.
You're not going to like my response. A lot of my colleagues won't like the response. At some point, we will have to negotiate her exit from India to someplace else, frankly, because Bangladesh is a sensitive, important relationship. And I think if we have to, maybe you're actually making me say that this could well be the deal in terms of allowing Awami League to participate in elections and maybe find a safe exit for Sheikh Hasina. I don't know if there is enough time to do that. But I think for me, everything else can be managed. But we cannot have a flawed election in which Jamaat comes number one and says, listen, we have won this election free and fair and square, and therefore we will rule. But
let me ask you, you're basically saying that a negotiation could be in the back channels, let the Awami League participate, and we should negotiate. We should say we're ready to have Sheikh Hasina leave India, not for Bangladesh, but to some other country.
Absolutely. Or at a minimum, say that, listen, you cannot have political activities. Do you see the Dalai Lama making comments about China's internal affairs? It's a bit like that. I think we have to be conscious of that. I understand where she's coming from and I understand how she feels, but I think realpolitik will have to get involved at this stage. And I would request her, listen, at least during the election period, don't say anything. That would be my plea, Barkha, but I know there are not too many takers in India for that. So,
well, I think sooner or later, it's a question we have to address. And I want General Sharma's response to it. What I've heard from India thus far, or many Indians, and Ambassador Kumar, he's right. He's one of the rare few who's actually saying it's time to start talking about this. The point is, the others are saying, look, going back to returning her to Bangladesh is not an option because her life is not safe in Bangladesh. I don't know what the third country is because she was meant to go to a third country. She was meant to be transiting through to India. The country was meant to be United Kingdom. Nobody has said this officially, but it seems as if the United Kingdom refused to give her that space, even though she has family there. The Americans certainly won't have her. They were never fans of Hasina. So, when Ambassador Kumar says it's time to start, maybe the framework of a deal is let all parties take part, but we will at minimum ensure that Sheikh Hasina will not make speeches from Indian soil. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, so one part I agree and one part I have a different opinion. She came to India thanks to the army chief. She was brought formally there. She was handed over by the serving army chief who sits there as an army chief even today. So, you can't say that we picked her up from Bangladesh and brought her here. She was brought by that time a part of the Bangladeshi government. So she's in India as part of that phenomena. Now, to push her away or even talk about pushing her away is actually losing disrespect for Indian nation. We have taken strong stand in this one, saying that, okay, she's a guest here. She was a friend of ours for 15 years. Now you suddenly jettison her out is not a very fair idea. So I disagree here. On her, the audio statements that he's been making and, support she gives out for Hindus being killed, etc. I think that the MEA should put a foot down, saying that you can't do this, especially in this period. Talking is not allowed. You are a guest with us, and guests should behave as guests ought to do. That's second. Third part. Look, if we take a equation with what happened to Imran Khan, and the PTI got banned, in the election that took place last year in Bangladesh, and Imran Khan was jailed away. But PTI won a state government, which still they have, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, not directly, but as independents, and they had whole lot of independents come up as the MNAs, their MPs. So, while you say that Awami League can be banned, but Awami League people can still stand for elections even as independent candidates, as happened in happened in Pakistan, and they will be a force to reckon with, even as which as a PTI is today, even despite the fact that Munir is behind Imran Khan. It's not happening this way. The third part I wish to say is about the apology. No, I fail to see any political party which has got a long-term ambitions to apologize for what they did, whether it is the election which was rigged previously or what they did in the course of last year. They will be punished. People will be taken to task. But your apology stands for history, for future time, future elections. Look, you did this and you did that. So political parties hate the question of laying on apologies, and I don't think they will apologize here.
I have a quick question from one of our audience members for you, General Sharma. While political equidistance for Dhaka from Delhi and Pindi, which is what Tarique Rahman said, is Bangladesh's sovereign prerogative, the impossibility of geographical equidistance means India needs to ensure it faces no security threats from Bangladesh. There are a number of military veterans, security experts who've been worried that the next terror threat will be traced back to Bangladesh, maybe to Pakistani terror groups operating there, that are now being allowed a kind of impunity that they were not allowed earlier. How concerned are you about this?
Okay, firstly, I take a step back on the border part. The border between India and Bangladesh was negotiated over a long period of time and decided we lost a large amount of territory when we sorted out the enclaves across. So border is not, it's neatly done up all over the place, and of course the fences come out. So anybody saying that they wish to expand the borders either way is actually foolish statements, and they don't merit concern at all. Now the issue of threat. Look, India has been facing terrorist threats from all over the place. Where do these LWE people in central India get their weapons from? They have been fighting us, so now they have come down to lesser quantity. But the weapons are coming from all over the place. The borders are all porous. So to say a threat cannot come across, whether it is terrorist threat or anything of this kind, or weapons being dropped or whatever, well, that's all possible, and we have to guard against it. We have to pull up our socks into any threat. But having said that, I think this threat bogey has been pushed a bit too far. Bangladesh, we surround Bangladesh on nearly four sides. We have no intent of this kind. The border has been managed by the Border Security Force and not by the army. To say that there is a threat, somebody said Lal Munir Hart. Lal Munir Hart is, I can sit on my side of the border and throw a stone to Lal Munir Hart. So, all this is, I think, exaggerations which do not merit so much of attention.
Okay. I need to start taking last comments. I'll come to you, Mr. Rabi. I want you to talk about the pan-Islamic influence that has been referenced by both General Sharma and Ambassador Kumar. It's also been talked about by many Bangladeshi friends and guests that we've had on this program. And they're genuinely concerned. The images, for me, more than even the, institutions being torched, was this image, a harmonium, somebody running with a harmonium. These are Taliban style images, that when a harmonium is not spared, when a tabla is not spared in mob frenzy. How concerned are you about these pan-Islamist forces, or do you believe that there is still a large part of the Bangladeshi people that do not think like this, that do not feel like this, but they're not getting a voice in the current environment?
So you are watching the harmonium breaking, but at the same time, Bangladesh is contesting in pageants. I forgot the lady's name, I think Mithila. She probably wore the scantiest bikini and became number 5 in Miss Universe, just like last month. And there is another lady who's in Miss Cosmos or something, and she's also wearing some of the most
I know, but I'm talking about targeted religious violence.
I'm giving you the perspective.
I'm talking about targeted religious violence.
Yeah, so I'm answering you the cultural side. So a country which produces ladies going into Miss Cosmos and Universe wearing, scant bikinis is definitely not conducive to this type of behavior as well. So The reality is in the middle. So let me explain what's going on in this China incident. Basically, what had happened over the last 15-16 years, the China, Udichi, there are certain institutions, they created the manufactured consent for the regime. So this breaking of harmonium is a political statement. It's nothing to do with religion. That's my view. I can be wrong, but that's my view. Because I grew up in this country, I know the people here.
So why have Mr. Dipu Chandra Das been lynched to death? Why have we seen a second lynching of a Hindu man? Our government has said today, or our foreign ministry has said today, that you cannot explain away these targeted killings by saying this is political violence. And I'm sure you agree, as a centrist, I'm sure you agree that Mr. Dipu Chandra Das was targeted for his religion. And today also we see another Hindu man lynched to death. There is a religious dimension to these killings that is inescapable, sir.
Yeah, so the first one and the second one, there's a little bit of a nuance, but none of them are good things. The first one was a setup. Like there was this poor guy who got promoted in his office, and his so-called the deprived people created a rumor that he actually did none of those, like writing bad stuff about the prophet. He never did it.
False allegations of blasphemy, basically.
And then they set him up, and they created a mob against him, and the overall law and order situation is a little bad right now. And then some fanatics came, and whether this whole thing is, I'm not going into any conspiratorial talk, so let me just say fresh and straight. So some crazies came and beat him up and killed him. So that's the Dipu Chandra Das incident. Today's the latest one is definitely nothing to do with religion. This guy is Hindu, of course, but he's actually a top terror, has a murder case against him. He has a Muslim guy with him, multiple Muslim guys with him. The other guy was carrying weapon. He was carrying weapon. They went to extort. And then currently in Bangladesh, extortion is an issue. And then people ganged up.
Do you concede that religious minorities, including the Hindu community, is more vulnerable in today's Bangladesh than earlier?
I think the Bangladesh has not become communal, but the political affiliation of the Hindus with Awami League continues to be a political problem. I agree on that. The country is not communal to the extent some other parts of the world. For example, let me just give you one example. You guys are fine analysts, general, talk show host and a diplomat. You would never see in Bangladesh a pogrom. Go search the internet. There is no pogrom in this country. Like no Hindu, like a place is Muslims are going beating whatever and then creating pogroms. It's not there. It's not culture here. So this fighting, sometimes these are political. Most of the Awami League people who died as Hindus, they died as Awami Leaguers, not as Hindus.
I understand the argument you're making, but with respect, that's the, in fact, specific comment from the foreign ministry here in India today that we cannot accept. When I say we, India cannot accept these explanations in the framework of political violence, certainly not any longer. But let me get reactions to what you've said. I do need to start closing. Quick reactions. I'll come to you, General Sharma, and give Ambassador Kumar the closing word. General Sharma?
So I think, we should look at hope here. And no, we should not start looking at negatives. What has happened is not nice. The lynching of two Hindus, whatever the rationale may be, is not nice at all. And there is a vulnerability for the Hindu population, and they should guard against it. So let's start that as a behind. But I think if we take it a little positively and say, okay, we have been in touch with the Indian diplomats have been in touch with Mr. Tarique Rahman in London and elsewhere, and we have been talking, and there have been exchange of views, and they understand that you just cannot move around in Bangladesh without Indians' presence all over the place, including electricity, including water, including whatever any which way. But India is totally intertwined with Bangladesh, so they all understand it. So let's start pragmatically saying, sort out the fences, sort out the issues here. Let's start talking. That Farrakha will start up for discussion immediately as the next government comes up. Farrakha is the first issue because the treaty has to be renegotiated. Let's start having an internal discussion as to what do the Bangladeshis want on Farrakha and what can we give, and where is the middle path. What can we do to Tiesta? What can be done to other issues, to strengthen the hands of the next prime minister when he takes over. So we start calculating some bouquet of options. Every time we think negatively, we have plenty of enemies in India. We can't look for creating much more. already
Okay.
surfeit of them.
Yeah, I do think it's important to remember that there is a strategic dimension to this, an external security dimension to what is going on. I want to give Ambassador Kumar the last word. I'll pick up a comment from our audience stream. India must show some spine. Do not hand over Sheikh Hasina to radicals. USA, Pakistan, China have played the game. Again, to clarify, you were talking about negotiating Hasina's exit to a third country, not back to Bangladesh in the current circumstances. That said, there is a view that the Americans wanted a regime change in Bangladesh. There is a view that China and Pakistan have interests that are basically calibrated to differing degrees against India. And therefore, to actually lose Sheikh Hasina at this point would to let all of those groups strengthen. That's why I picked up this comment. Last word to you, sir.
So I just want to begin by saying that fringe theories and conspiracy theories should not be allowed to hijack India-Bangladesh ties, number one. Number two, we need an election there which is free, fair, and inclusive. And I'm just going to throw one idea which just occurred to me. Can Muhammad Yunus and Bangladesh, the interim government there, find strength in itself to allow Awami League politicians to stand as independents? No Awami League banner, but let them stand as independents. It's grossly unfair to target members of parliament and others who were not even consulted by Sheikh Hasina, even assuming she carried out all the crimes for which she is allegedly responsible. Can that be done? Because I think that is where India will have to have a wide-ranging conversation with the Americans, the Europeans, the Canadians, and others who will be watching Bangladesh. It is in Bangladesh's interest to have a free, fair, and inclusive election. The Bangladeshis are extremely proud. We know that. And they are proud of their democracy. But it would be sad if this election was called a completely flawed one. Last but not least, I also agree with the general. The bilateral ties when it comes to visa, trade, and other things has already hit an all-time low. We will presumably wait with a bouquet of options, as he says, when the new Prime Minister takes office in Dhaka. We've suspended visas from Chittagong, which has affected medical tourism, trade. They started first by saying they will not allow land routes. And we have said now that Bangladeshi things cannot come through land routes. They will have to only come through sea, which means the Northeast is cut off. So I think there is a lot that can be done once there is an elected government in Bangladesh based on free and fair elections.
I think one thing we can agree on as we close is that much of what happens between India and Bangladesh next also depends on what happens inside Bangladesh in these elections. And to that extent, it has been a very important return by Khaleda Zia's son, but also a very important point of some sort of participation from the Awami League. After that, how a sovereign state chooses to bring its people to justice that they believe have violated the law is their business, not ours. But there are direct, not just security concerns for India, but also geopolitical concerns. There's a churn taking place there. There are other countries involved. And as Ambassador Kumar has said, India has to be at that high table of those conversations. We can't lock ourselves into this silo. And also a very important point, perhaps for the first time, you have people saying Sheikh Hasina should be asked to not speak while she is in India at this time. So I think that's a new thought also that has come forth. We leave it there. Thank you very much to Mr. Shafkat Rabi, to General Sharma, and to Ambassador Mohan Kumar. Always learn from all of you. Have a great evening, have a great weekend, and see you all very soon. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.